across the street. So a little out of breath, I picked up the phone to hear a person introduce himself as the academic dean of Newbold College, and would I be interested in accepting an appointment to the newly founded Department of Business Administration. At least the phone call I received was a little better than that received by Dr. David Ritter when I called him to ask a similar question. My call arrived at his home on April Fool's Day. He would not believe that there was any way, that this call was in any way above board. And he called the General Conference to confirm that there was a place called Newbold College. And that Keith Housing did in fact exist. He thought that one of his less reverend friends was perpetrating a homeschool. And thus it was that the wheels were set in motion for us to relocate to England. The only problem at the outset was that I couldn't even pronounce the name of the academic dean, Bjerke. I had to learn a thing or two about European names. Worse was yet to come. At that point, I didn't know about Yugoslavian names. My appointment can only be ascribed to the contact circle amongst Adventist educators, as Wilbert Schneider had recommended my name to Dr. Steve Thompson, and the Newbold administration acted on that advice. Dr. Schneider had been with us at Salusi and had made a recommendation, and Dr. Birkin had followed up. It clearly demonstrates the importance of using the network. It might also illustrate the incestuous relationship that exists within the Adventist Church. In the 1987 Crossroads, John Stalinovich wrote, and I quote, "In line with Newbold's multi-faced makeup and character, a brand new department has mushroomed over the past 3 years." He continues, "Students have flocked from every corner of the globe to become efficient administrators and business personnel." I think his evaluation was right, but I get ahead of myself. When we arrived here, I was quickly introduced to Mrs. Iris Shantz, to whom real recognition should be made, for it was thanks to her single-handed initiative that a business program of sorts actually got started. The good thing, however, was that at no time did I have to persuade her of anything. She wanted to see this program get up and running, and without her wholehearted support, it would have been much more difficult. Talking of persuasion, however, it needs to be noted that not all of our colleagues were so keen to see this program in place and developing as rapidly as it did in those first few years. In fact, I think it would be more truthful to say that some didn't really want us here at all. I recall that at one staff meeting a statement was made that the spiritual tone of the place would decline because of the new emphasis on business. My experience in the several places where I have worked is that students can and will make a positive contribution to the tone of the place. Newbold was no exception. Talking of students, perhaps I should now move to making a few comments about the students I found here and those who joined us as time progressed. Certain characteristics come to mind. First one, familiarity. In Africa, I had been treated with a measure of real respect. My African students never called me anything else but Mr. And to be really respectful, and is often done, Pastor. But here at Newbold, things were different. On more than one occasion, it was simply my surname that summoned my attention. In our more recent move, 10 years ago now, we were soon to discover that even more was to come. Australians are not known for their respect of authority. Indeed, it did not take long to realize that we would be known by our first names very quickly. There is a very clear attempt to equalize, and the unfortunate tall poppy syndrome really comes into play. quickly comes into play. I was recently commended, for example, by a young male student for not putting doctor on the sign of my office door. Secondly, attitude to study. I must admit that I hold up my Newbold students of examples of how to approach studies.
Long ago.
In some students, clearly the text had been read, and I would constantly be asked about items that had been noted in the pre-lecture reading period. Stefan Yagi was a particular example of a persistent student who asked question after question based on the fact that he'd read his assigned chapters ahead of time. I wish that my Australian students came with the same attitude. Thirdly, my next heading says achievements. A goodly number of our students went on to achieve good positions in commerce and industry. Naturally, Iris and I would like to take credit for their achievements. Perhaps some succeeded in spite of us. Now, to list student names would probably get me into real trouble, so perhaps I should just leave that piece out. But nonetheless, I commend you for your achievements and your contribution to church and the wide business community. I would be remiss if I did not make particular mention of my teaching colleagues. When I came here, it was just Irish and me. We moved quickly to find another instructor, and we were pointed in the direction of David Ritter. I've already mentioned how I nearly blew that appointment. David is a unique individual, but he brought his special approach to teaching and delivery of
David Ritter.
As we added subjects and rounded out the two majors, we were really blessed to have Carmelita Troy join the staff. Her arrival here could have been a good deal better. I had agreed to meet her incoming TWA flight from the United States, so I gave myself just enough time to drive to Heathrow without having to stand around for a long time to wait for her. And stand around I did, until well past her scheduled arrival time, only to discover that her particular flight landed at Gatwick. Of course, by the time I'd arrived there, she had wisely taken the train and got on with things without the head of department. And perhaps she's a great example of how to deal with bumbling bureaucracy. Carmelita is a professional accountant to help build the gaps that we had in our staffing at that time. It was simply not possible to deliver an accounting degree with one person, me. We needed to find an experienced individual to bring the required depth into our offerings. In my view, Carmelita did exactly that. I believe I can say with some assurance that the students who took her classes found the teaching to be focused and well delivered. I'm glad that we were able